very, very strange week for Nintendo, right? Because, like, while I and many others were hoping for, you know, Nintendo said, surprise, Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition, which is like, okay, that's a thing now, that's cool. And then Nintendo Music, right? Just like out of nowhere, just at like what, like 6:03 p.m. Not a morning announcement like they usually do. It's just there, right? That's really weird. And I wanted to talk about it because, not only because it's really weird, but like because of, we always got to get into the implications, right? There's always implications that we got to talk about. So, Nintendo Music, right? This is something that I feel like people wanted but didn't expect. Does that make sense? Like, it seems uniquely un-Nintendo, if that makes sense, to just like provide an instant means of access for this sort of thing, because like for a while it just seemed like, oh, okay, Nintendo's just gonna go on their thing and like people are gonna upload stuff on YouTube. They'll occasionally get like mass copyright claimed by Nintendo, and then someone else will pick up the slack, and then that'll just be how things are, because that's how things have been for like ever at this point, for as long as uploading Nintendo music on the internet has existed, that has been the order of things. So this is so interesting because suddenly Nintendo decides that's not the case anymore. We now have a dedicated Nintendo Music app, which obviously, beats out the previous means, the previous official means of, I guess, putting your Switch in your pocket somehow and then listening to Smash Ultimate's OST. This is really cool, obviously. Like, I'm glad that just looking at it immediately, like, my biggest fear was like, oh, okay, if they do this, like, because people have been speculating about this for a while, right? So my biggest fear within that speculation was like, okay, if they do this, it's going to be like Switch era music, you get to listen to like Jump Up Superstar or like Breath of the Wild's music. That sounds like a diss. I love Breath of the Wild's OST. Don't get it twisted. But I'm just saying, like, the biggest fear was, okay, modern Nintendo music, that's it. But no, it seems like they're going pretty deep. They're going back to, like, SNES, like, stuff. They're going back. They got Tomodachi Collection in there, which is, like, okay. Like, sure, guys, I'm not going to say no to it. It's good to see them covering their bases like that, I am worried about the music over time thing. That just seems like, I feel like it makes sense to be worried about that, because like, what do you mean by that, Nintendo? The app's dropping later tonight, so obviously by that point we'll have a better understanding of like what the selection is, like what's going to be missing. I just don't want there to be like major omissions for the sake of being like, ooh, 5 months down the line you can finally listen to the Yoshi's Island theme. Like okay, thanks, Nintendo. Like, it goes against the whole point. If this is gonna be like a dedicated means of accessing Nintendo music, then you can't just like be intentionally limiting its reach, and I don't expect like every single Nintendo song in history to be on there, obviously, but like there shouldn't be major missing aspects of like major franchises, like just so that you can throw it on later. That's a whole other discussion, right? That's the only thing I'm worried about. We'll find out if that's an accurate worry later tonight. Obviously, this thing seems really cool, right? The thing that I want to talk about is like how it ties into the perspective that Nintendo's been building up and what we can like further expect from that, Because for a while now, and like I touched on this in that previous video, which don't need to talk about. But for a while now, Nintendo's been talking about the potential of the Nintendo account, right? And giving increasing value to the Nintendo account, right? And Nintendo Switch Online by adding potential services, right? And that's also something that kind of ties into like the playtest program, which decided that Canadians don't get to play, so I am not part of that. Hope you guys are having fun. But like, Nintendo decided, oh, okay, Nintendo Switch Online, that gives us a perfect avenue to reach out to some of our more dedicated players and give them this opportunity, right? That's an example of like using it as an extension of their reach and like integrating services that otherwise couldn't be accessible without Nintendo Switch Online and a Nintendo account, right? It's about like providing consistent new services in that manner, right? Or at least that seems like what they're talking about. And that's corroborated, obviously, now by the introduction of Nintendo Music, which is a dedicated Nintendo Music app that is exclusive to Nintendo Switch Online members. This is really interesting to me because they're turning Nintendo Switch Online into less of just like a game service and more of just like a service, you know? Like originally the whole point of Nintendo Switch Online was, hey, you buy this and then you can play games online, obviously. And then it's like, hey, we're gonna throw in some low-key kind of game, you know, get NES, SNES. SNES games are great. But it's like, hey, we're gonna throw in this as like a little bonus, right? We saw that evolve over time to where it's like, okay, now it's like, hey, now you get N64, now you get GBA, Game Boy, and then stuff like that, and Nintendo Switch Online plus expansion pack. Now you also get access to a bunch of cool DLC, right? So like we're sort of seeing the service evolve over the course of the Switch era, and now we're getting this music app. So now to me, it begs the question of what else can they get? Like what else can they give us through Switch Online and the Nintendo account? Because they keep talking about, we're gonna make this more valuable, we're gonna keep adding services to this. What else could they add? And that also, sorry, gotta circle back around to it, it also ties into the Switch too, because obviously, it's not a coincidence that Nintendo is suddenly deciding to add this major service or major benefit to their service at the end of the Switch generation. Like, no, they're trying to ensure that Nintendo Switch Online remains a service that is valuable and that is providing new forms of content as we head into their next generation, right? Which is the whole point. They keep talking about carrying the Nintendo accounts over. Unlike the Wii U to Switch or whatever, it's not like a major shift in an ecosystem. Like, you now have a Nintendo account. That is how you access Nintendo stuff, right? NSO is an extension of that. So it's not a coincidence that, like, as we're entering this new era, they're suddenly deciding, hey, we're going to add this ultra valuable service to it to make it even more appealing, you know? And I have to say it, right? I have to say it. Street Pass, okay? No, just hear me out, okay? Street Pass, right? I can't stop thinking about it because it would be perfect, right? Would that not be perfect? Here's the thing. Obviously, the cool thing about Street Pass was that it's like a little exclusive club, you know? Like, hey, I got a 3DS, right? You got a 3DS. We just Street Pass each other, you know? So we know this. We know this, right? And I'm gonna invite you to my plaza, right? Like, that was the whole point. Nintendo accounts almost invoke a similar sort of like not an exclusivity, but like maybe it is exclusive. I don't know how to describe it, but like it's a similar vibe where it's like, okay, we have now created a specific group of Nintendo fans that are like exclusive, you know? Exclusivity was the right word. That is exclusive, you know? So like I'm thinking about Street Pass and how it could be integrated in the future, where it's like, okay, if you have a Nintendo account and you are an NSO subscriber, then you have access to, you know, basically a community where it's like, you now have access to all these other, and you know, the obvious thing that other people are going to talk about is Miiverse, right? I don't necessarily see Miiverse coming back. I think that Nintendo saw the struggles of hosting a social media platform to like 13 million people, and trying to do that for like 150 million people would be terrifying for them, even if they theoretically could. But like when I'm thinking about Street Pass, and it's like, man, they could really do that if they wanted to. And it doesn't even need to be through the Switch or Switch 2. They could do it like on your mobile device, right? Is that I think like they could do it like, okay, you pass another Nintendo Switch owner, and like maybe now like it's easier to, I don't know, maybe like it's easier to add them to your friend list, or it's easier to like see, I don't know, but like you could get them in like Find Me type games. Like it just seems perfect, right? And it feels like an evolution of what they're talking about with adding goods to this service. So that's the main thing I was interested in, right? Like not just Nintendo Music as a concept, because like the concept is really interesting, but like what it means for other Nintendo services going forward. Because I feel like it could mean a lot, you know? I feel like this isn't just the beginning. Like, mind you, we're not even in the next generation yet, technically. I feel like they're gonna go even crazier with NSO type stuff as we get into the next generation. Like, no, yeah, I just think it's gonna be wild. Like, they could also do like you remember Nintendo Pictures? That was a thing that they recently did where they're like, hey, we're gonna hire this like CG house, I'm pretty sure, and just like to make Nintendo stuff. That'd be pretty cool. Like, what if they made like a little, you know, little Nintendo cinematic app? You know, maybe you can watch like Smash trailers or something, or like the Pikmin movies, or the Mario movie. I don't know. Sure. Yeah, that's basically it. I just think I want them to add Street Pass. Also, Nintendo, the ACNL OST better be there night one, which is in a few hours. If I cannot access the Animal Crossing New Leaf OST immediately, and set it all to set the hourly OST to 60 minutes each and have the music playing in real time to my actual passage of the day, I'll be very disappointed. So, don't disappoint me, Nintendo. Bye.